I went to a general surgeon and he said, "You're really young. I think this is just a fatty cyst and I don't really want you to have a scar because you're beautiful and I don't want you to have a scar at a young age." And I was like, "Oh my gosh. I don't care about a scar. I just really don't want this here. It doesn't belong." My name is Ciarra. I'm from Monroe, Michigan. My diagnosis is dermatofibrosarcoma protuberans, and I was diagnosed in December of 2024. I work in mental health. It's a very important topic, and one of the reasons I actually wanted to do this, because I wanted to humanize my experience for others that might be going through something similar. And I spent a lot of time with my friends and family. I have a niece who is my lifeline, and yeah, I really just hang out. Starting in 2020, really, I would say I started having a lot of symptoms of autoimmune disease, and I was going through a lot of testing and just things like that. I was having a lot of illness, and I finally got that all taken care of. And I would say in November, I would say maybe October 2023, I noticed a lump had appeared right here on my clavicle, on my left clavicle, and it just popped up one day. I mean, there was no rhyme or reason. I didn't hit it there. I was actually on the beach with my friends, and I kind of just was feeling it. I'm like, oh, that's new. So it was a little pea-sized bump, really not painful, not on the outside of the skin, very much on the inside. And the lump was really just the first symptom that I had, and then it kind of progressed from there. I was having a lot of night sweats and just frequent illness. I was having fevers like once a week. Just my body just did not feel right. And with this form of cancer, those are not normal symptoms to be having. So it was a little bit shocking when I got this exact diagnosis because they were expecting something like lymphoma or something like that. But this kind of all caught us off guard because it didn't really line up to what I was experiencing. Initially, my lump kind of popped up, like I said, in I would say September, October of 2023. And I didn't really think that much of it, but I'm a little bit paranoid sometimes. And I think this actually was a great time to be paranoid, obviously. So, in November 2023, I had my first ultrasound with my primary doctor, and she really did not think anything of it either. It was so small, it was just like a tiny little pea. And it wasn't it wasn't causing any issues. So we really kind of didn't think a lot of it. The ultrasound came back completely fine. There was absolutely nothing on it. So she said, come back in 6 weeks. Well, it wasn't really growing or changing. It grew a little bit, but I didn't think anything of it once again. In March of 2024 is when I was like, okay, so it's still there. It's been quite some time. I'm going to go back and see what's going on. And during this time, I did have a little bit of abnormal blood work, but nothing that would scream, oh, cancer. I was still having a lot of illness, just my body was just not optimal, and I knew that there was something going on. So in March of 2024, I went back to the doctor, and they kind of did more thorough investigation. They did another ultrasound, x-rays. They kind of just were really starting to dig deeper. Once again, it came back with nothing, and the x-rays came back with nothing. So they said, hold tight, and if it grows, that's when we'll take some action. November 2024 came, and it had grown. It started off as that little pea that I mentioned, and then it kind of developed into one or two. I mean, it was kind of like two or three really strange coagulation kind of bumps. It just didn't feel like one solid mass, and they were all next to each other. And one of my primary doctors at the time had mentioned lymphoma, and her husband had it. And the spot that it was located in, the left clavicle, can be a really high rate of malignancy. So she said, okay, I'm going to advocate for you here, and we're going to really even go deeper. So CTs were ordered, ultrasounds were ordered, more and more blood work. I mean, we really were hitting it hard at this point, just because I still wasn't feeling well, and I didn't want something strange growing on me. Even if it was a lipoma or a cyst, I just didn't want it to be there. So everything came back indeterminate. And at this point, I'm like, okay, it's growing, things are changing. I really want it off of me. I just don't want it here. Which I really had to push. And I wasn't fully comfortable advocating for myself at that time, but I felt like I was being dismissed. And as a young woman, I think it's important to really say, hey, this is going on. I might be too young for this, but I think something's happening here. So I really pushed, and I went to a general surgeon and he said, you're really young. I think this is just a fatty cyst, and I don't really want you to have a scar because you're beautiful, and I don't want you to have a scar at a young age. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't care about a scar. I just really don't want this here. It doesn't belong. So he did schedule the biopsy, and he did feel around during that appointment and kind of was like, wait, this is a little different than I expected. So he did follow through, which was awesome. And I was awake for my initial biopsy, which was not the most fun experience. Um, he could tell you about that, but ultimately, when you're awake and there's things going on, it could be a little frightening. But we made it through. About a week later, I got a patient portal message that had my results. And I was on my way to work. I pulled over and I was diagnosed. I saw malignant and immediately called my mom and was like, what does this mean? No one's called me. You expect the first instance of being diagnosed with something so scary, someone's going to call you or sit you down or something like that. And no one had. It kind of just popped up there, and that was that. So I called my doctor. He called back right away, the surgeon, and he said, I am so sorry that I didn't listen to you. And I'm so proud of you for advocating for yourself because I was going to leave this on you. I was not going to take this off. So you need to keep that up through your journey, which I did. I kept it up through my whole journey and asked the most questions and pressed for as many tests as I felt like I needed. And I think that's a big part of my story because as a young woman, like I said, you can be dismissed with anxiety or, those kinds of things. And I just didn't want it to get to that point. So that is how I got diagnosed. I did not anticipate it actually being cancer. I don't think anyone does, though. I think you hear about it and you read it, and it doesn't really hit to what that actually means for your life. And I've been extremely, extremely blessed in the fact that I got clear margins very quickly, and I didn't have to lose my hair and all those things. And it's just so life changing beyond the actual diagnosis that I don't think a lot of people realize that you are a forever changed person. After you have cancer, it's a very deep part of your identity. But those initial moments are so anxiety inducing. You just don't know what your life is going to look like. And you have all these plans in your head and hope that you can do them and achieve your goals and like meet your expectations for yourself. But when you get that diagnosis, it's like, okay, now what? Now what is this all going to look like? When am I going to be normal again? Is it going to be a year? Is it going to be 2 years? Is it going to be 3 months? And it just is really crazy, especially with such a rare cancer. The treatment is not cut and dry at all for sarcoma in general, really, but specifically dermatofibrosarcoma. It's a different kind of treatment. So for me, I had a lot of bias of, well, this must not be a very serious cancer because I haven't lost my hair and I don't need chemo and I don't need radiation. And really, it's just surgery, surgery, surgery until you can get clear margins. So my initial surgery, the plan was to take about 3 centimeters from the tumor, which is about from here to here and here to here. Just scoop all that tissue out and try to get as many of cancer cells out as possible. This is a locally aggressive tumor, so even if chemo and radiation were options, it wouldn't actually solve the issue. So many people that have my type of cancer have 20, 30 surgeries until they can really be cancer free. And sometimes it is lifelong. So I I had my one surgery and I was supposed to have a skin graft, did not need it. Thank God. And I had my one surgery and got clear margins. And I mean, that was it. That was my treatment, really. Obviously, I had a lot of mobility issues and nerve pains that I'm still dealing with and will probably forever deal with. But it is a very highly reoccurring cancer, about 75%. So we always say that when we have clear margins, it's amazing, but it's not a death sentence. It's a life sentence, to the point of most people do have very many surgeries and a lot disfiguring and whatnot. So I'm enjoying my moment right now and grateful that I only had to have two surgeries, including my biopsy, but one big surgery, and I got those clear margins. After clear margins, really you're considered fully remission, which is amazing. But like I said, it is highly reoccurring. So most people will have a reoccurrence in a short amount of time, which changes the game plan. It can turn into something called fibrosarcoma, which is much more intense. And I am going to be seen every 6 months for 5 years. There's just a lot of different what ifs about the after, which has caused a lot of nerve, just because it does come back stronger during pregnancies, and if it does come back, the rates of it turning into a more aggressive type are higher. If it comes back, it's usually more aggressive and it's more difficult to perform surgery, and all of those are kind of part of the after, what's to come. And those are the things I try not to think about often, but they are part of the journey with this type of cancer. There's just so many different wheels that turn. I think one of my saving graces absolutely was the Facebook group. It's the largest Facebook group or collection of people for dermatofibrosarcoma in the world. So it's really nice that we had that. They really supported all my emotions, and it was just a great community. But I think a lot of my emotions were surrounding not knowing what's next, and just kind of waiting for the ball to drop. I waited a long time to get diagnosed with cancer in general. And then after you get diagnosed, you want everything to be like bang, bang, bang. You want it to go so fast. And it's just that's not the reality. People wait a long time to get treated. And even after you're treated, then you're waiting for results. And then you're waiting for another lump to show up. And I think that's the most emotional part, is just waiting to see what is going to happen next, having the fear that it's going to come back. And something a lot of people don't mention is not only feeling bad for yourself, but feeling like you have imposter syndrome, because rare cancers don't normally follow typical treatment. I didn't even think I could say I had cancer for a long time, because it felt like, well, I'm not debilitated. I was ill, but I wasn't going through crazy treatments where I'm super sick every day or anything like that. So I think that imposter syndrome part does play a part of kind of hiding your journey a little bit, but also trying to make people aware that the stigma and the bias around cancer is it doesn't always look the same. That was very emotional for me. And even I was biased toward my own self at first, but now I can officially say I'm a cancer survivor, which I wear with honor, because I didn't even feel like I had the privilege to say that for a long time. But another hard emotional part is just putting your life on pause as a young person. I was just starting to excel in my career. I was just getting going, bought a new car like a month before I got diagnosed. And then just watching my family struggle with my diagnosis, watching my mom cry, my sister cry. You can feel sorry for yourself and be upset about how your life is looking, but watching the people around you be upset and knowing they feel helpless is equally as hard to me. I don't think I coped great, honestly. I work in mental health, and I teach people how to deal with mental health, but I always say coaches don't play all the time. So um, I really just took it day by day. There were truly days that I woke up, and if I made it through that day, that was an achievement for me. The waiting got to me so badly, but I surrounded myself with my family. And I remember a few days after my surgery, we were waiting to hear, if I was going to have another surgery. And I was really struggling with pain and mentally. And my aunt came over, and my mom and her were making videos. And I remember laughing so hard, I was going to bust my stitches, truly. And just that moment of clarity and being like, okay, I can get through this, because look at how much joy can be in even the hard times. My sister made an Amazon wish list when I first got diagnosed, and people I don't even know were buying things off of it. And it was one day and everything was purchased. I'm like, wow. I mean, I love all these people, but I didn't even think people that I didn't know cared that much. So it's just my support system. They just have been everything. It's changed my perspective so much on how much I appreciate my family. At 27 years old, you don't ever think anything like this is going to happen. I think to a certain degree, you think you're invincible. And that's the beauty of being in your 20s sometimes. But it was just like the thought of, okay, I have to think about fertility, my future partner, wanting to buy a house. I just bought a car. I have all these bills, and it's just all so fresh. These things are just getting started for me. And then all of a sudden it was like a ginormous halt, it felt like. But I met people that are my age that have dealt with similar things. And even just online, having these friends that we were like, okay, how are you feeling today? Not great. Okay, well, my scan came back clean. How did yours come back? And we really kind of relied on each other, because you're not the only young person, to ever go through something like this. And I found a lot of comfort in that I wasn't alone. I think the online community was huge for me. Not only for research purposes, but just support. It was so helpful. But you just don't think it's ever going to be you, but it makes it even better when you do overcome some of the struggles, because you have so much life ahead of you still to live. So it's like I said, it's changed my perspective on literally everything. I respect my time more. I respect my relationships more. I respect myself more, everything I'm capable of. And I get to take those skills into the rest of my life. Just take it one day at a time. Just try to stay as positive as you can. And then sometimes if you're not positive, that's fine too. There were days that I wanted to scream and be mad at the world and just yell, why is this happening to me? And that was fine. But then the next day, maybe my dog would cuddle me and I would be like, okay, this is nice. So just really taking it one day at a time and appreciating those really small wins. Even if they don't feel big, those are the things that I think I look back on and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I was dealing with recovering from cancer and did that. Or just, I can't believe I was recovering from cancer and I still kept up with my friends and family. Those things seem so minimal, but they are huge when you're going through it. And sometimes it's okay to just be. You don't have to be the person that still works while they're doing treatment. And you don't have to be the person that does it all on their own because they're so strong. You don't have to do that. You can rely on people, and you can have bad days, and you can cry and yell and whatever you need to do. But you'll, at the end of the day, all that matters is that you're still here and you're still doing your best. I think advocacy is huge. I think you have to sometimes not be so nice to get what you want with big medical systems. And I hate saying that because I am always trying to be as kind as possible. But there were times I'm like, okay, I might feel a little guilty for being so headstrong, but it's better to feel a little guilty about having to advocate for myself, then wait and have something truly be wrong and not speak up for myself. And just trust your body. I think we know ourselves, right? We know ourselves so well, and we second guess ourselves a lot. I know I still do. I still just talked about how I don't feel like I actually had cancer. It feels very minimal. And I think we can sometimes like gaslight ourselves. Trust your gut. Get yourself checked out. Get your lumps checked out. Many people that I showed my lump to said, oh, I would have never went to the doctor for that. And I'm like, well, thank God I did because I trusted myself. And, sarcomas are 1% of all cancers. And my kind of sarcoma is 1% of that. So it's so rare and it's so unlikely, but there's always a chance, and you have to trust your gut and get those lumps checked out, even if they look a little silly. And it's okay to feel a little silly as long as you're healthy.